Update. I am a 24 female and my sister, 28 female, is convinced that her husband, 26 male, is the father of my baby, despite a DNA test proving he isn't and identifying the real father. Original story. The real father can't legally claim our son without causing himself issues, so we agreed to an informal arrangement where he didn't claim him but still paid support. I gave my sister his name and he got on a video call with her and verified that he was the real father. He just can't do a formal DNA test or claim our son. To clarify by formal DNA test, I mean one that would be court-ordered and result in him taking parental rights, while the informal test was done privately, and we have agreed not to take it to court. Despite the actual father telling my sister that he was the father and the DNA test, my sister is still convinced that the father is her husband, as they share a significant physical resemblance that the bio-dad also shares. Other than the physical resemblance, which I would say is debatable, as he's a baby and looks like a potato or a Santerran most days, my sister suspects that her husband and I had an affair because her husband and I have a lot in common and were friends before they got together, and he's really good with my son. We're also all living together, so she thinks there was opportunity. We told her until we were blue in the face that her husband wasn't the real father, and we got another test through the same facility that did the test on the real father to prove it. But because it was done by the same facility, my sister then suggested that we switch the names on the test results. At this point, I have no idea what to do. She's being incredibly difficult for no good reason. She won't listen to us. And we don't know how to deal with it as we feel that she's locked onto this area and won't drop it, despite all the evidence we've given her. Any ideas? I guess it doesn't help that you and your sister's husbands were such good friends before she got married to him, and you have lots in common with him. Plus, you're all living together under the same roof. Tell me what you think in the comments section. I suspect there's a twist to this story. Now for the update. While I didn't fear for the safety of my child or myself, several commenters on the last post did, and when I showed my sister's husband the post, he admitted that he had found a secret camera in their bedroom a few weeks ago. When I heard that, we agreed to deal with this now. We talked to my sister yesterday, saying that if she didn't give us a rational reason for her behavior, we would both go and stay with friends separately until she saw a mental health professional, and we knew it was safe for all of us to be around her. She locked herself in her room. When her husband asked to be let into the room so he could get his bag to stay with his friend, they began arguing, and between rounds of arguing with him, she would come crying to me, literally. Between us, we patched together what we think is the truth. While my sister has always told me that she was on the fence about kids, she told her husband that she definitely wanted them. Truth is, she has never wanted children and doesn't think she ever will. She knew this before she and her husband got together, but lied, thinking that after they married, she could talk him out of wanting kids. She managed to convince him that they should hold off on kids until I had a baby, which prompted him to ask her about kids again. She realized she had to leave him. But then she lost her job, so he was supporting both of them. A no-fault divorce requires they live apart for years before filing, and my sister could no longer afford this. So she realized it would have to be an at-fault divorce, and it would have to be his fault. She never believed that he was actually the father of my child, but she thought that by freezing out both of us, combined with her accusing us of cheating, being crammed into a small space together, him being good with my son, and our past friendship, it would all lead to us actually having an affair that she could catch on camera. She could then divorce him due to cheating and rush the process and push for alimony on the grounds that he cheated on her with me. While she was unemployed and without alimony, she would be stuck living with me, her husband's a fair partner. The only flaw in her plan was that neither of us would ever do that to her. Her husband is currently staying with friends until he figures out what he wants to do. I am at the house still with my sister and my son. Things are tense, but she's agreed to sell the house, though she isn't happy about it. She has stayed in her area of the house all day, and I'm hoping she keeps to this. Story 2. Update. I had a baby as a result of an affair, and now his wife is reaching out to me. Original story. I, female 26, had an affair with a married man, male 42, a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him, and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great sex, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him, I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wish that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant, and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated, and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, what the fuck, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted, and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promise to leave me alone. At first, he tried to sweet-talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me, and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall, we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming him as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their sibling and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same way that she does. Now, on to the updates. Update 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it, and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant, and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair, and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing, and I felt like, due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago, his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months, and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now, their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me, and posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me the one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years, and she knew about somebody even before he met me. But she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me, and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger towards him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together. And it was very awkward because what do I say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate me if I were them. I told her with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it, and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down, so he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently, she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up, and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie? And he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially, but then it's like, was any of that true? Or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Update 2. I posted about this a few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college, I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away in a vacation to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I agreed to go along with what he wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come to pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word and I didn't name him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago, his wife contacted me via social media. At first, she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do not feel bad about it. But at the end of the conversation, I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and they're teens. Plus, I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly, he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point. But she said he had expressed interest to meet our child. So, she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here, then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son. He wants to be a father to our son. He wants to provide financially for him. He'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally, directly. Now I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mum. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the two of us, and now I don't want to give that up. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Thank you.